not actually gonna sing, am I? On this day, we received a game which is not a game, a movie that's not really a movie, an interactive story that's not really all that interactive either. Immortality, a game featuring a story so twisted and complicated that I gave up trying to make sense of any of it. I literally have no idea how to interpret the whole thing, which luckily, at least I think, isn't the point of the game. When I first heard about the game, I was like, oh, cool, another globally placed indie game? I'm f***ing in. What could possibly go wrong? Well, everything. This game has already solidified itself as one of the most confusing, disturbing, porn-like supernatural beings symbolizing shit experiences I've ever played. I mean, it's so confusing that the game literally suffers from an identity crisis. Is it horror? Point and click? One continuous cutscene? Something like Black Mirror Bandersnatch? Does it even have a story? I have no f***ing clue.
You died for our sins? A story.
What I do know is that they created something very, very special. When you fire it up for the first time, there's almost nothing that immediately gives away its true colors. But as soon as the mechanics of the games are introduced, i.e. the match cut, rewinding, and well, that's about it. You know, this ain't exactly gonna be your usual Fortnite Thanos twerking next to Rick Sanchez doing
Daddy, chill.
What the is even that? Anyway, you're playing as a person, entity, detective, god, or thing that has to answer one question. What happened to Marissa Marcel, an up-and-coming actress who mysteriously dies while filming her last movie? You have access to some footage of her films which were never released, and you have to figure out what happened to her. But these sequences are incomplete. You have to find clues and piece all the little sequences together to solve the mystery. Easy, right? Just a simple mystery to be solved. And that's exactly when the game decides, F you. Well, because there's literally no direction in the story. You have to piece everything together yourself. And even when, if you do, you still don't understand what just happened. But lucky for us, there are plenty of things that the game does right, even at the surface level. First off, let's start with the actual title of the game, Immortality. Well, when you first begin playing the game, you would think that somehow immortality is depicted through motion picture like movies and films in this game, and how looking at footage with real people, albeit mostly actors, is still like a time capsule. But that's not what the game is all about, at least not entirely. The story of Marissa Marcel is basically divided into 4 main sections, with 3 movies plus 1 section that also progresses in parallel with all 3 movies. Let's call the last one the Absurd Land, for the lack of a better word for, that. Now you're piecing the story together to get the full picture. I mean, quite literally piecing it together. And well, it's kind of a murder story, so this kinda makes you the detective, which is why it kinda reminded me so much of True Detective Season 1. The first problem is that you have no idea how best to approach this absurd land, because you get regular scenes with Marissa and the rest of the gang trying to figure out what happened to her, and then this happens.
When I woke the last time, I was into chaos.
Cool little whoosh sound, right? Yup, the game presents its metaphorical, symbolic, figurative meaning. Notice that at no point did the game introduce any supernatural things, which is exactly why you probably shouldn't expect to get the actual answers you are looking for, because you won't. These little sequences tell a story parallel to Marissa's pain and suffering and success, but it only becomes apparent when you try to interpret and somehow integrate it into the game. I mean, sure, or else why would they be in the game, right? Well, here's another thing. It doesn't make any Now you could say that this thing called the one and the other thing called the other one are somehow Marissa's internal and external struggles depicted. But the story they tell you isn't always consistent with this theory. It's filled with meta commentary and allusions, and it tries really hard to make some kind of a grand statement. And the problem is that you don't know what this statement is. It is not clear whatsoever. You can also say that, hey, it's the point of the game, right? It's a mystery. Leave the meaning up to the player. But the language is extremely vague, a little too vague in fact. And it's dark. I mean, quite literally, it's dark. With these two f***ers just popping in and out of existence in Marissa's films, suggesting that whatever happened to Marissa is only one part of the story, which you still can't answer with certainty after finishing the game. While the other side of the story is, how the f*** do I interpret these two?
What up, cuz?
You have the God's eye perspective in this game, and in combination with beautiful cinematic aesthetics, exemplary acting, plenty of symbolism and imagery, it works really, really well. It works so well, in fact, that I literally thought it was a real story for like a day before I looked it up. Now, I know you're gonna call me a dumbass, and fair enough, I do have my fair share of dumbassery, but it doesn't make this sentence any less valid. I also believe that it takes advantage of our morbidly curious brains and knows psychology so well that I wouldn't be surprised if you told me I spent 10,000 hours shaking hands with the milkman in certain scenes. And for obvious reasons, I can't show you those scenes, sorry. But focusing more on the story, which is pretty much the only thing that the game has going for it, reveals a few interesting things. For starters, Marissa Marcel's story is that of tragedy, which includes abuse, both physical and emotional, exploitation, depression, disappointment, and heartbreak, all of which are laid out in 3 different movies or stages of her life. The first one being innocence, which is taken away, the second one being heartbreak, and the last one obviously being descent or downfall. But also paradoxically redemption or acceptance, depending on how you look at it. It's extremely hard to know for certain what's true and what's not. Because hey, everything that you see is either a scene from a movie and there are actors, or it's in some pre-production stage and it's a table read, which thickens the mystery. God, that was cringe. The game tries its hardest to hide everything from you. The only background, which by the way you're supposed to dig out in the menu section, is this little article about Marissa Marcel and what you're actually supposed to do with all this mess. One could say the game's objective isn't very clear,
but I myself am more open-minded.
Additionally, I noticed that you can absolutely think of this entire gaming experience as one gigantic grand movie within a movie. If it sounds confusing, that's because it is. But sticking with what we can kinda safely assume, the main theme of the game is that all the elements repeat throughout history, and we are like objects or actors bringing them to life. It's sort of like our lives, but also movies directed by those elements. And in that way, the title Immortality kinda starts making sense. Wait, did I say we can safely assume this? That, we can't. Okay, never mind. See, this is exactly what the game does so right, making you think that there's always a deeper level to everything, when in reality, it may not be intended at all. Kind of like how art works, I guess. This entire thing can very well be a trick, always nudging you into some unknown direction, making you obsessed. Like one simple mechanic of looking for clues and clicking on them to bring you to another scene where the exact same thing or person is there is so incredibly effective. And sometimes it just gives you a random scene, which again, if you were trying to read into it too much, you would think, oh, wait a minute, maybe, just maybe, there's more to this. So yeah, I think people are gonna come up with way more theories about the game in the future, and that's exactly what makes the game so brilliant. So if the game really wants us to answer what happened to Marissa Marcel, dude, I don't fucking know. And that's exactly what the game is aiming for, open interpretation. Anyway, I really enjoyed Immortality despite some annoying mechanics, deliberate or not, and I would probably give it a 9. Now I would like a moment just for the two of us. Please take a look at this. What does it tell you? 99%? More than 99. If you enjoy video games with good stories and don't mind occasional terrible jokes, please consider subscribing. It's free.
For now. No, I'm just kidding. It's free.
I would also like to take this moment to appreciate every single one who watched the previous video about Dutch Vanderland and that character. That one was also cool. I didn't really expect that to get that many views, to be honest. So thank you. Thank you so much. And see you in the next one.